Hey there, this is Mike Pearl from the Digital Transformation Project team. In this video I want to go over the publishing and registration processes that are currently built into the VMS for the events that we're creating. For this flowchart, we've got three different color codes. The red is anything that's user initiated, meaning that somebody actually has to click a button or do something in order for that piece to happen. The darker color is system initiated, which means there's a built-in workflow or some kind of automation that kicks in. And the olive color is more of just a miscellaneous note for the video. So everything starts by somebody actually clicking on publish, and at one point it was a button that I think it just got changed to a drop-down menu now. So there's a couple specific roles that will be able to actually publish the event, and the reason we locked it down is because there's going to probably be a delicate balance between when you actually hit the publish button versus when the event is actually approved. And each region is going to want to do that a little bit differently. Some regions are going to want to make sure that everything under the sun is figured out before they actually approve the process. And so for them, they might want to publish earlier than the approval just so that they can get a good idea of how many people are going to show up, or they wanted to have it out on the calendar maybe 60 days prior, etc. Other regions are going to publish kind of whenever they feel like it. So it's something that's currently decoupled from the approval process. Once they do hit approve or hit publish, then the system's going to look to see whether the event type of the event is set to training or not. If it is set to training, then there are specific hard-coded landing pages that are specific to those nationally recognized training classes that we have. For example, all the Train the Trainers, Sawyer 1, heavy equipment training. Each one of those will have its own specific landing page that will have all the objectives, descriptions, and everything hard-coded so that it's easier for Team Rubicon to control the text and keep it standardized. If it's something that's not training, then it's going to go to a more generic portal landing page, and those might be specific by the subtype. So, for example, the fitness events should look the same, but have different information. Workshops or classes might look the same, but have different information. So more of the fields are going to come out of the actual event to go to those landing pages compared to the big national training classes. The event calendar that the volunteers will use in order to register is synced every 30 minutes. And so just know that as soon as you publish something, it's still going to take up to 30 minutes for it to show up. Once it's on the calendar, the volunteer will be able to see it either by using the map tool that's built in, or by using the calendar itself if you want to zoom in on a specific weekend, for example, or the grid, which will show everything that and allow you to sort and filter by it. There's a bunch of filters at the top as well. Once they find an event that they want to register for, they can click on the register button. And for the people that are logged into the system, it's going to automatically put their name and email address in, and they simply just have to hit register. They might have to look at the waiver that's built in, and that comes from if the event itself had the waiver required, then the waiver will show up on the registration page that they'll have to basically accept the terms and conditions. It's important to note that for the registration page, you don't have to be a logged in Team Rubicon volunteer, and we wanted to build it that way because sometimes there are service projects or other types of events that we do with other partners at the regional level, so Habitat for Humanity or Team Red, White, and Blue, Mission Continues, and so we wanted for them to be able to register for the event as well without having to be a Team Rubicon member. So that's why we have that additional step in there to have your name and email address. Once you register, you'll get an email that should have a calendar invite included with it. And then the next step will be for either the submitter or the instructor or somebody to look at the volunteers that have requested the event, to look at their contact records inside of the VMS and make sure that they meet all the prereqs. So this is something that's currently user initiated, which means that someone has to go visually inspect and make sure that, for example, for a Sawyer 1 class, we have to make sure that they went and took the online prereq. So at the moment, this is something that has to be done manually, but in the future, we're going to rig it so that it's able to go look at someone's transcript and just understand whether they've done it or not. And so that's coming soon. If they do not meet the prereq, then the instructor will basically go into their registration record inside the event. There's a drop down there they can hit for missing prereq, put in a note, and then that's going to email the volunteer to go correct that. If the volunteer does meet the prereqs, then they simply go to the event. Once the event occurs, The system's going to look at whether or not the volunteer showed up, and that's based on whether the instructor checked them in or not. If the volunteer did not show up, then they would show the instructor or the event lead would mark them as canceled, which is kind of the same thing as no-show. And all these different things update that contact record in the system for the volunteer. So depending on what you do, the contact record will be updated to show the actual status of the person, that whether they showed up or not. If they did actually show up, then the instructor would mark that same dropdown as attended or checked in. The next step is whether the volunteer actually passed the class or not. And this is something that the system will look at based on the instructor choosing to use another dropdown which has pass or action plan as options as well. So that way they can show that someone did in fact show up and they passed the final exam, or they passed whatever the curriculum is looking for. At that point, whether they passed or not, it still gets updated in the contact record. And then the instructor has the ability to send a post-event survey if they choose to. And last but not least, the approvers have the ability to then go and mark the overall event complete. So once the instructor or the event lead has shown the disposition of everybody in the class, whether they showed up and whether they passed or not, then you should be able to mark the overall event complete as well, and that would complete the overall event. There's probably going to be some other things that are built into that closeout, but for now that's what we're working with. If you have any questions or anything else that I might be able to help you with or clarify, just let me know. You should have my contact info here at the bottom, and I'll see you in the next video.